coming up on February the 8th. I think we're all aware of that date now. We do have quite a bit of highlights. Our platform speaks for itself, and much of what will be in that throne speech will certainly be where we're moving with our platform. Now, I won't give you a whole lot of detail because we want to save a lot of that for that day, but you will and can rest assured that we have already, as an administration, moved on several things that we've done. We said that we would take a 10% pay cut to show our willingness to lead the way, and that we will work with everyone in the country in setting the example of what needs to happen. 2013 is going to be a difficult time financially for us, but it also presents some opportunities. We said that we would also cut back on the number of GP cars. We've done that. None of our ministers at present are driving any of the GP cars. We do,
except you.
Except for me, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, could you not have jumped on your bike when you left Government House and when you were sworn in?
Could I have
used a GP1 as a ceremonial?
Oh, well, I'll tell you one of the things that we're doing right now. I drive into work with my own car. But certainly for official functions, I will not do anything to degrade the position of premiership. And I recognize the protocol of that position dictates that we do use a GP1 car. We will use it as sparingly as we can, but for those official functions like inaugurations and others, we'll continue to use the official car. But on a regular basis, as I've said already, I drive in myself in my car, and the public have seen me enough times to know that that is a regular. First thing in the morning, they'll see me going to work with my wife in our own car. But that does not negate the fact that every so often there may be a need for me to use a GP car. We do have a fleet of 6 cars that are being held for our ministers, and that allows them to have those dispatched to them so that they can use them when those official times do happen. But again, it's not about looking to take away from the responsibility of the positions that our ministers and myself have, but at the same time, we've got to look at where we can cut our cost. And we recognize that there was a bit of excess with the cars, and our ministers have all been in agreement. They will drive themselves to work.
Okay, so back to the throne speech. What's the
Sure.
overall theme? What is it?
This will be the overall theme. All of our ministers have been charged with this, and this is the vision for the next year. Number one, we've got to get jobs back on the table, and not just get the jobs back on the table, but we also need to ensure that we don't lose jobs. We maintain what we already have. To lose jobs will be a major concern for us and concern for the island. And then number two, as our ministers have been charged, they've got 3 things to look at. All its decision-making has to be centered around getting jobs back to the table. And then number 2, how do we, in our decision-making, attract back our intellectual capital, our local intellectual capital that has left the country? We need to get them back as a part of the system here and bringing new and innovative industries here. At the same time, we also recognize that we need to get job creators back in the island. Those entrepreneurs that are out there, high net worth people who spend millions in the economy. We estimate that there's probably been about somewhere of about 10,000 of local intellect and as well as those great job creators who have left the island. We need to get that back here so that that money is being spent in our local economy. And then the third tier in all of our ministers' decision making, they have to be looking at, when they make a decision, how is it going to affect the crime rate, the violent crime rate in the island that has created this fear. Crime has come down, but for the violent crime, we are concerned. As you know, just Christmas Eve, and now we've got 2 road deaths that have taken place. And that's not necessarily to do with crime, but we know that we need to do more in educating the public about the safety of traveling on our roads, which are very narrow. It is important to get that message out there. So again, the theme has been, and the vision is, our ministers in all of its decision making. And just this morning, I met with the permanent secretaries and all of the heads of departments, I guess in excess of 50 of them that were out there to the meeting. They have been charged with, in its decision making, how does what I decide to do affect creating jobs and maintaining jobs? How is it going to create Bermuda as a more attractive jurisdiction for our own people to come back, as well as job creators? And then thirdly, how will it affect our decision-making in helping reduce the violent crime in the island. All of those are interconnected, I believe. And again, as well as you know, I know, if we don't set any goals, and our ministers will be setting criterion for specific goals that you will hear in the throne speech, if we don't measure it, then it's not going to get done. And so we've got to measure these.
Right. So race.
Yes. Yes.
And I haven't heard you say it yet, but since.
Yes.
But for example, I'm just going to read back to you.
Sure.
Just to refresh people's memories. The legacy of racism is a root cause of many of the social ills and the dysfunction we are grappling with today.
Yes.
And unless this is understood, we cannot move forward together.
Yep.
I'm skipping forward a bit. Others seeking a platform in our country have been genuinely ignorant about the way white supremacy has imposed injustice and how it still works to maintain the status quo. Then he talks about institutions and businesses that, quote, make life difficult for black Bermudians who want to come home and participate.
Sure.
You say we must address racism and a dysfunction from racism on both sides.
Yes.
We need to genuinely champion justice. Sounds to me that you think that government has a role to play. So now that you're in government, what is the approach to it?
Yeah, it's a subject that, and we were just talking about it yesterday at the Bermuda National Gallery as we were going through and looking at some of the art there. I think the concern really has been is that as a people we have tended to either avoid the conversation because it can get conflicting, which never leads to resolution, or we just completely ignore it altogether, and there's never ever anything that comes out of it. We have to acknowledge the fact that some things have happened in the past. Now, I'm not saying that we necessarily need to dwell on the past, but what we do need to do is look at where we have these inefficiencies, especially economic equity, which I've spoken with for the last year about. We've got to look at how we can bring that disparity closer and closer to it not being a gap there where everyone has opportunity. And you know, there's been talk about affirmative action type decisions that we may need to look at. We're exploring those options right now and what that means. I certainly am not necessarily an expert on all of race relations, but I do know that the conversation that we've had in the past hasn't really led to any more dialogue or resolution. So we've got to find a way to have this conversation that allows a bit of, because it will get conflicting, but at the same time, we come out of it with a clear, defined way of dealing with it. Otherwise, it's just going to continue and continue. The walls have been built up, and we got to continue to break down those walls of divisiveness. How we do that needs to be a collective argument, though, and a collective decision-making, per se. And I think that that's what I'm looking for. As we move forward, I'm going to be looking for an avenue, a pathway, so that everyone gets a voice in being able to say how they feel about economic equity in this country. There is a disparity. It would be foolish for me to say that there isn't a disparity. And I think that that disparity has come about because we have not made enough information available to everyone in order to take advantage of opportunities.
Okay.
How do we do that? And in my conversations with even the likes of Dr. Hudson, and trying to understand some of the thinking and the thought process behind as to what she feels is some of the ways that we move forward. Not just talking with her, but even with her brother, Arthur Hutchin, I've had conversations. How do we move forward with this here and really make some strides? And so that conversation will continue, and I will continue to talk with those individuals that I think can help.
What do you like about what they're saying to you?
That we need resolve. That something has to happen, and that we haven't really put anything in place that is addressing it. That means that it's wide open for opportunity. And so we've got to find a real way of doing that. You know, we're looking at who could be the Speaker of the House, and certainly we've talked to the likes of Mr. Horton and others as well of that potential. Decision has not been fully made, but we certainly are making those approaches and talking.
So who besides Mr. Horton have you spoken to?
I'll leave it at that for now. You asked about him, and I have made that approach since you asked.
What is the advantage politically of having Mr. Horton as Speaker?
I think it's pretty much straightforward. It gives us the opportunity when it comes to decision making. It now moves us from a 1917 to a 1916. Obviously, that is a political per se advantage. But again, I go back to what I said earlier. I believe that with this small margin, it really will lead to lively and encouraging and good legislation. It's important. I think this is really, really important that it's happened. Otherwise, what happens is it becomes very political, and sometimes being political in that sense will lead to strategies and outcomes that may not always be in the total interest of the people.
Another thought I was having is about, you say you're going to address issues of structural racism.
Sure.
Things, but your cabinet seems to be, at least I think maybe 7 or 8 of them are from a period and a former government that arguably did very little to address structural racism.
Sure.
How do you expect the public to actually believe that you're going to act on structural racism?
Sure.
The same people are actually in your cabinet.
Yeah, you could say that in many instances. That doesn't preclude the fact that they are open to address it. That just means that whoever was leading at the time certainly did not set it as a mandate. We have set that as something that we want to address. I myself as the leader and our ministers understand that in their decision making they're going to have to start looking at this. That's my mandate that I'm putting across to them, that we need to address it. So, just because someone comes from a previous administration doesn't preclude them from making good decisions. I mean, I'm thankful and grateful that we have this opportunity to have experience in the room. It's important to Bermuda that they know that experience is there, so.
But experience in doing absolutely nothing about race.
Well, that's fine. We do have a group that is in the room that does and has set it as a mandate. So that just because you've got people who didn't address it before doesn't preclude the fact that it's not going to happen. This is a new day.
What is your finance minister the other day said the budgets are going to be ironclad, meaning there will be no variation from whatever the budgets are set. Have you set, or has your government set a budget for the special advisors and consultants that you would be hiring?
Yeah, we took a line previously that we said we would cut back on the number of consultants and even contractors that are in place. We're coming from a previous administration that has put us in a position of debt of almost 1.5 billion, almost 100 million plus being spent on consultants as well as contractors out there. So we have taken that approach that we will cut back on where we see the inefficiencies. One of the things that's important is that we must understand that some of the decisions that were made to have consultants were good decisions. I won't say that they weren't, but as a whole, we recognize that there were some excesses, and where we can cut back on those, we certainly will.
Okay, so you're saying you just mentioned a figure of 100 million in the former government. Correct?
Yes.
They would argue that's not the case.
Sure.
In fact, the figure I looked at was 45 million or thereabouts in 2010-11. I guess, my question really is, what's the ironclad number that you're going to say, we're not going to spend more than this figure on consultants?
Sure. We're certainly, if you look at the administration and you count the number of working days that we've been here, it's less than a month. We're still assessing that. I mean, within 3 to 4 weeks, it's very difficult to have those clear, defined numbers set. However, I will say this, that Minister Richards, has been given the directive to set clear lines on those budgetary areas where we can cut back, and he will make those known to you, including the number of consultants that we do have.